NFL fans, welcome back to another episode of the JL Day Show. Today we're talking daily fantasy on DraftKings. And oh my gosh, if you subscribe to the channel and you're a member of this JL Day Show, you saw that I was going hard on Jauan Jennings last week. 49.5 fantasy points for you guys. So man, it's so worth it to check out my memberships. $4.99 a month. You get amazing detailed analysis of daily fantasy like Jauan Jennings coming up huge for us, almost 50 fantasy points for under a $5,000 salary. I can't believe how well I knew he was going to have a good game. I was thinking maybe 30 points, but almost 50. We absolutely crush it. So make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. This is my first look at daily fantasy for week 4, right? So here we go. I'm going to do this live with you guys. I always like to pick my defense first, but the 49ers are the biggest at $3,800, and they look not so good against like the F squad of the Rams. Javon Hargraves tore that tricep, I think it was. He is done for the year, right? So we need to find interesting spots. I do like the Jets defense against a rookie quarterback if you want to pay up for a defense, but I want to find some value because not a lot of defenses are coming back and making you a ton of money right now, right? So we have to find good spots against bad offenses, right? So what are some of the worst offenses that we've been seeing lately, right? The Jaguars are really interesting, so we could go with Houston. So where is Houston on this list? Houston, $3,000 against Jacksonville, a horrible offense. They can't do anything at all right now. They got to go on the road, starting the season 0-3. I like that spot for Houston. I actually think CJ Stroud is a very interesting play this week for a nice bounce back game. But I never like to pay up for quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts leads the way at $7,200. That seems a little rich for me. To win fantasy, you gotta go 4 or 5 extra salary, right? So you want to get someone in that, really in that under $6,000 range. So where could we, get a spot? Caleb Williams hasn't had that big breakout fantasy game, but pretty good last week. He returned 23 points for us on a pretty modest $5,600 salary. The Rams are struggling right now, so that's interesting for me. Andy Dalton. I'm attacking Andy Dalton, guys. I'm attacking Andy Dalton. 27 fantasy points for us last week. The Bengals defense is so unbelievably bad. Awful. 4 straight drives against the Commanders. 4 straight touchdowns. I couldn't even believe my eyes. And I want to pair him with Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson. Adam Thielen's hurt. So Deontay Johnson is where we do that stack, guys. I love that stack. And they got gashed by the run. They got gashed by the pass. I looked for Andy Dalton to have a big game this week. And that gives us some serious flexibility, around $6,000 per player left, right? So where do we want to pay up on our roster? It's not going to be tight end, right? But Hunter Henry's interesting for me. Cole Kmet had a nice game last week, 25 fantasy points. So I do think that Caleb Williams is going to start looking at him a little more often. I do like Kyle Pitts. He's becoming a pretty big target for Kirk Cousins, but I'm going to stick. It doesn't look like no Devontae Smith. I don't know if A.J. Brown's going to play, but I like Dallas Goedert, $5,100. He had a great week last week, 30 fantasy points. I expect Jalen Hurts to rely on him heavily in week 4 versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All right, now let's go pick some running backs, guys. We still have $6,200 per player. Do we want to pay up for a guy like Saquon, who's been unbelievable every single week, 30 fantasy points? I'm willing to pay up for Saquon Barkley because the Eagles probably are going to be without Devontae Smith. Offensive line is banged up, right? So there's going to be like a lot of short passes. We have to take that into consideration. Now we have around 5,700, so we got to take a flyer on a running back. What about a guy like Chuba Hubbard? Is that interesting? He had monster game, 30 fantasy points. I'm bringing in Chuba Hubbard. I think we got to attack this Cincinnati defense on the road. They were terrible last week, right? I know everyone's going to be like, you're jumping on last week's bandwagon, but no, I'm not. I saw the game last night with the Bengals, and the Bengals were so bad. I think Andy Dalton is going to be very successful again. Now, let's take another look at the wide receiver position, right? Like, I never like paying up for wide receivers. I want to find some value, right? So where is the value going to be in week 4, right? Ooh, Reed is really interesting against Minnesota, but Minnesota's defense is very, very, very good. Not so good the last 2 weeks, so I'm going to pass on that. Terry McLaurin, I really, really like what Terry McLaurin did last night. I'm going to go Terry McLaurin again against an Arizona secondary that's not very good. So now we have $5,700 for our final wide receiver and for our flex, right? So I'm going to go over to flex and see where we have some value in that $6,000 range, right? You know, Bucky Irving's been really great for Tampa Bay. He could be a very interesting play because White is not that dude. He's just not very good. Bucky Irving hasn't had that breakout game yet, but he's going to have one soon. He's definitely on my watch list this week. But as we scan through the flex position in that $5,700 range, ooh, George Pickens, man, that's an interesting play. I'm rolling with Pickens, man. The Colts defense is so bad. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I want to go Najee Harris, right? He's questionable right now. It looks like he's going to be available to play. The Colts can't stop the run at all. I'm going Najee Harris. We'll have to keep an eye on that if he's going to play. We'll have to see what the injury report says as we get later in the week. Now we have $5,900 for our last wide receiver. Michael Pittman is in play. T. Higgins, Xavier Worthy. George Pickens I like as well. The Colts defense is not very good, so I think the Pittsburgh Steelers could have a really, really good game against this team next week. So where do we go? There's nobody screaming. Rome Odunze is interesting too. 26 points. I like Rome Odunze here. I'm going to go with him. Now we have $700 extra. Do we pay up somewhere else in a spot like our flex position? Because Najee Harris is hurt, right? So maybe we don't go there initially and kind of see how that plays out. But Drake London's in play. But Brian Robinson Jr. continues to have good fantasy games each and every week. Not so good last week, which was a surprise. But Austin Eckler was in protocol for concussions, right? So I think that he is absolutely in play this week for a monster game. I'm going with Brian Robinson Jr. There it is. There's my lineup, everyone. We're going Andy Dalton, Barkley, Chuba Hubbard, Deontay Johnson, Terry McLaurin, Rome Odunze, Dallas Goedert, Brian Robinson Jr., and the Texans defense. We do have $200 extra. So if you want to go, with the Raiders defense, or I'm never going with the Colts defense. New Orleans, I don't know. Chicago, I don't love that either. I think the Texans are in a better spot to really shut down a terrible Jacksonville Jaguars team. That's why I love this roster, guys. Let me know in the comments below. Do you like these daily fantasy updates? And if you do, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We'll catch you on the next video. Peace.